Welcome back to another episode of Learn English with Podcast Conversation. In this episode, we'll be focusing on a very important topic, small talk at the workplace. Engaging in small talk with colleagues is key to building professional relationships and making work environments more comfortable.
Exactly. Workplace small talk helps you connect with your coworkers, discuss daily tasks, and build rapport. It's a skill that can enhance your communication at work and help you navigate conversations about work projects or even casual topics. Listening to this podcast will help you improve both your listening and communication skills, as well as give you some practical examples of how to talk about work projects and tasks.
By the end of this episode, you'll feel more confident about starting conversations with colleagues, maintaining friendly yet professional relationships, and discussing work-related topics easily. So, let's get started. Starting a conversation at work can sometimes feel awkward, but a simple greeting like, "Hey, how's your day going?" can work wonders. It opens the door for casual chat without diving straight into work.
Yes, something as simple as "How's your morning?" or "How's your project going?" can be a great way to get the conversation flowing. These questions show that you're interested in your colleague's day and not just about the work task.
Exactly. It's a good way to show you care about your colleague's well-being, and it helps build a sense of camaraderie. And remember, the tone is just as important as the words you use. A friendly, open tone will make your colleague feel more comfortable.
That's a great point. For example, if you're starting a conversation with a colleague, try saying something like, "I noticed you've been working on that big project. How's it going?" It's professional, but shows you're paying attention to what's happening around you.
I agree. It's also good to focus on common topics you share at work, like shared projects or daily tasks. For example, "How did that meeting go this morning?" is another good opener that can transition naturally into a conversation.
And don't forget, body language plays a big role, too. Maintaining eye contact, nodding, and smiling can make your small talk feel more genuine and less forced. You want to show that you're engaged and interested in what your colleague has to say.
Absolutely. These nonverbal cues help reinforce the idea that you're not just making small talk for the sake of it, but you're genuinely interested in the conversation.
Let's move into discussing work projects. Small talk can often transition naturally into work-related conversations, especially when you're collaborating on tasks or projects.
Yes, and these conversations don't have to be complicated. Something like, "I've been thinking about our upcoming project. What do you think about the deadlines?" is a simple way to start a conversation while keeping it professional.
That's right. It's not just about asking questions, either. You can also share your thoughts, like, "I've found that last part of the project pretty challenging. How about you?" This opens up a space for dialogue where both sides share experiences.
And it also shows that you're not afraid to talk about the tough parts of the job. Sharing your challenges can actually make colleagues more open to sharing theirs as well, which can lead to problem-solving conversations.
Exactly. It's a great way to exchange ideas. You can also ask for advice or feedback in a casual way, like, "Do you think we should approach this task differently next time?" This makes the small talk not just social, but also productive.
I really like that approach. It keeps the conversation professional but allows you to bond over shared tasks. It also helps develop a collaborative atmosphere in the workplace.
And remember, when discussing work projects, keep the tone positive. It's fine to acknowledge challenges, but try to end on an optimistic note. It keeps the conversation light and constructive. That's so true. And it's important to maintain a balance. You want to keep things professional, but also approachable. This makes colleagues feel comfortable talking about work without it being too formal.
Building relationships through small talk is a huge part of creating a positive work environment. When you regularly engage in casual conversations with your colleagues, you're building trust and a sense of teamwork.
Yes, it's surprising how much of a difference a few minutes of small talk can make. Over time, these small conversations create a sense of familiarity. For example, just chatting for a minute about how busy your week has been can make future collaborations smoother.
Absolutely, small talk can be the foundation of stronger working relationships. It's a way to break down barriers and make colleagues feel more at ease around each other. Over time, this can lead to better communication during more serious work discussions.
And it helps with team building, too. When coworkers are comfortable chatting casually, they're more likely to help each other out or offer support when needed. You can easily segue into topics like, "Do you need help with that task?" or "Let me know if you need a hand."
Yes, and these simple offers of help show that you're invested in the team's success. It can also open up more opportunities for collaboration and teamwork in the long run.
And don't forget, small talk is also a great way to get to know your colleagues beyond just work. Asking how their weekend was or if they have any plans for upcoming holidays can add a personal touch to the conversation.
Definitely, this makes the workplace more enjoyable and helps create a sense of community. Even just saying, "I hope you had a great weekend," on a Monday morning can set a positive tone for the day. Not all workplace conversations are easy. Sometimes we have to approach more difficult topics. But small talk can actually help set a positive tone before diving into a more serious discussion.
That's a really good point. For instance, if you need to discuss a deadline that's been missed or a project that didn't go as planned, starting with something like, "How's your day going so far?" can make the conversation feel less confrontational.
Yes, it's a good way to break the ice and create a more relaxed atmosphere. You don't want to jump straight into a tough topic without warming up the conversation first.
Right, and once the small talk has made both of you feel more comfortable, you can transition into the topic more smoothly. For example, you could say, "I've been thinking about the deadline we missed last week. What do you think we could improve next time?"
Exactly. It keeps the tone collaborative rather than critical. You're not accusing them of anything, but instead inviting them to be part of the solution.
And this also gives the other person space to express their own thoughts or concerns. If you go straight to the issue, they might feel defensive. But small talk helps soften the conversation and allows both sides to speak more openly.
Yes, and it's important to listen during these conversations. Small talk isn't just about what you say, it's about showing interest in what your colleague has to say as well.
That's true. By listening attentively during small talk, you show that you value their input, which can lead to better, more productive conversations overall. It's important to maintain a balance between casual conversation and professionalism, especially in the workplace. How do you strike that balance, Jennifer?
I think it comes down to context. When you're talking with colleagues, it's good to stay friendly, but you want to make sure that your conversations don't get too casual or off topic, especially when it comes to work.
Exactly. For instance, chatting about weekend plans is fine, but you don't want it to take up too much time during working hours. You can say something like, "Did you have a good weekend?" And after a short exchange, smoothly shift back to work with something like, "Speaking of which, how's that project going?"
That's a great strategy. It shows that you're friendly but still focused on the tasks at hand. It's all about finding that balance between being approachable and maintaining professionalism.
And being mindful of time is important too. You don't want a casual conversation to turn into a long discussion that distracts from work. A quick, friendly exchange can help break up the day, but it's important to get back to work after that ...
Exactly. And knowing your audience matters as well. Some colleagues might appreciate more casual conversation, while others prefer to keep things strictly professional. It's good to be aware of what each person is comfortable with.
That's a great point. Tailoring your small talk to the individual can help strengthen relationships while still keeping things professional. And as you get to know your colleagues better, you'll naturally learn what they're comfortable with.
Yes, it's all about reading the room and knowing when to shift gears. By balancing casual and professional conversation, you create a positive and productive work environment. Small talk isn't just about individual conversations, it can also help build team spirit. When everyone on a team feels comfortable chatting with each other, it creates a more cohesive and supportive environment.
Absolutely. Teams that engage in casual conversations tend to work together more effectively. For example, before a meeting starts, a little small talk can help everyone feel more relaxed and ready to collaborate.
Yes, and it can also help team members get to know each other better, which can lead to more trust and stronger teamwork. Something as simple as, "How's your morning going?" before a meeting can set a positive tone for the discussion.
And when team members feel comfortable talking to each other, they're more likely to share ideas and ask for help when needed. Small talk helps break down barriers and encourages open communication.
That's true. It also makes team members feel valued on a personal level, not just for their work contributions. For example, if you ask someone how their weekend was, you're showing that you're interested in them as a person, not just as a coworker.
Yes, and that sense of personal connection can translate into better teamwork. When people feel connected to their colleagues, they're more likely to support each other and work together towards common goals.
So even though small talk might seem insignificant at times, it can actually have a big impact on team dynamics and overall workplace morale.
Exactly. It's a small effort that can lead to stronger relationships and better collaboration within a team. One of the best opportunities for small talk is during breaks. Whether it's a coffee break, lunch break, or just stepping away from your desk for a moment, it's a perfect time to connect with colleagues.
That's true. During breaks, people tend to be more relaxed, which makes conversations feel less formal. You can ask something simple like, "Do you have any plans for lunch today?" Or, "Have you tried the new coffee shop nearby?"
Exactly. These kinds of questions don't feel intrusive, and they can lead to a more natural and friendly conversation. Plus, talking about non-work topics during breaks can help you bond with your coworkers.
Yes, and it's also a good way to recharge mentally. Engaging in casual conversations during breaks can actually refresh your mind and help you return to work feeling more energized. It's like hitting the reset button, and it helps build a more friendly work environment at the same time.
That's a great point. It also gives you a chance to learn more about your colleagues outside of work. When you know a bit about their interests or hobbies, it's easier to find common ground and build rapport.
Exactly. And these small interactions can make a big difference in how you feel about your workplace. When you take a few minutes to chat during a break, it can make the whole office feel more connected.
I've found that small talk during breaks also makes it easier to collaborate later. When you've built up that friendly rapport, it's easier to approach a colleague for help or share ideas during a meeting.
Yes, it builds trust. People are more likely to engage with someone they feel they have a personal connection with, even if it's just from casual conversations. The simple act of exchanging a few words over coffee can build a sense of camaraderie.
And it's funny how small talk during a break can actually pave the way for more productive conversations later on. When you've already had that friendly exchange, approaching someone to discuss a project feels more natural.
Definitely, it helps break down any potential awkwardness. You're not just that person from work. You've had a real human connection, even if it's brief.
And that's why small talk, even during short breaks, isn't a waste of time. It's a way to foster a positive workplace culture where people feel comfortable communicating and working together.
Exactly. It's a small effort that can lead to stronger relationships and better collaboration within a team. These conversations may seem insignificant at the moment, but they can create a more welcoming atmosphere overall.
That's right, and a positive work environment can lead to increased job satisfaction, which benefits everyone. So, the next time you're grabbing a cup of coffee, remember that a little chat can go a long way.
Now, let's dive into something a bit more challenging: small talk in group settings. It can feel intimidating at times, especially when you're not sure when or how to jump into the conversation. Do you find that too, Thomas?
Definitely. Group conversations can be tricky because there are multiple people involved, and sometimes it feels like the conversation is already flowing without you. But the key is finding a way to contribute without forcing it.
Exactly. What I've learned is that you don't need to dominate the conversation to be part of it. You can ease your way in by listening closely and waiting for the right moment to add something meaningful. One good tip is to start with a question that engages everyone. For instance, if you're in the break room, you could say something like, "What did you all think of that new office policy?" It's relevant to the workplace, but still casual enough to invite multiple people into the discussion.
I like that approach. Asking a question opens up the floor and encourages participation from different people. It also takes the pressure off you because it shifts the focus to the group. Instead of thinking, "I need to say something clever," you're facilitating a conversation that everyone can engage with.
Exactly. And once the conversation gets going, you can observe how people respond. Some may jump right in, while others will stay quiet. If someone looks like they have something to say but haven't spoken yet, you can encourage them by directly asking their opinion. Something simple like, "What do you think about it?" can draw them in and make the conversation more inclusive.
Yes, and that's important. Sometimes people are just waiting for a small opening to contribute, and by acknowledging them, you're helping to create a more welcoming and interactive atmosphere. In a group, everyone wants to feel included, even if they aren't the most vocal.
Another trick I use is to build on what others are saying. If someone mentions they've been struggling with a particular project, for example, you can say something like, "I've been having similar issues. How are you handling it?" That way, you're connecting your own experience to theirs, which keeps the conversation flowing naturally.
Right, and when you build on someone's comment, it shows that you're actively listening and engaged in the conversation. It also signals that you're interested in more than just stating your own point of view. You're genuinely curious about others' thoughts.
That's the beauty of group small talk. It's not just about contributing your own opinions. It's about fostering a dialogue where everyone feels comfortable sharing. You don't have to have all the answers or the most interesting stories. Simply being part of the discussion can make you a valuable contributor.
Absolutely. And don't forget, it's okay to let the conversation ebb and flow naturally. Sometimes you'll be more of a listener, and other times you'll take the lead. As long as you're engaged and respectful of everyone's input, you're contributing to the group dynamic in a positive way.
And once you get more comfortable, you can even use humor or lighthearted comments to break the ice in group settings. Something like, "Well, that new office policy sure has everyone talking, hasn't it?" can add a bit of fun without straying too far from the topic.
Yes, humor is great for easing tension and making people feel at ease. It can be a good way to bring some warmth to the conversation, as long as it's appropriate for the situation. When used correctly, humor can build connections in ways that more formal small talk can't.
So true. The key is to read the room and adjust your tone accordingly. Group small talk is really about balance, finding your voice in the conversation while helping others find theirs too.
Exactly. And remember, the goal isn't to be the center of attention. It's to create a space where everyone feels comfortable participating. When you achieve that, it helps build stronger relationships in the workplace, which ultimately benefits the entire team. Now, let's transition into something closely related to small talk, discussing work projects casually. Jennifer, do you think small talk can help when it comes to work discussions?
Oh, absolutely. I think small talk is a great way to ease into conversations about work projects. Sometimes jumping straight into work topics can feel a bit formal, so starting with a little small talk can create a more relaxed atmosphere. For example, instead of just asking about a project update, you could start with, "How's your day going?" Or, "Did you manage to catch a break this afternoon?" It makes the conversation feel less like an interrogation and more like a natural exchange.
I totally agree. I often find that when I start with a more casual question, the other person feels more comfortable opening up about their work. It takes the edge off, and once that small talk has warmed up the conversation, you can smoothly transition into the work topic. For instance, after chatting about their day, you could ask, by the way, how's the project coming along?
Yes, and when the conversation starts on a relaxed note, it's easier to keep the tone casual even when discussing work details. This makes the entire conversation more collaborative rather than feeling like a formal update. Plus, it shows that you're not just interested in the project, but also in the person you're speaking to.
That's a great point. Small talk allows you to build that personal connection before diving into the work specifics. And when you know a little more about your colleague's mood or situation, you can tailor your approach accordingly. Maybe they're having a stressful day, and you can offer some encouragement before discussing the task.
Exactly. It's a subtle way of showing empathy. Small talk gives you clues about how the other person is feeling. If they're swamped with work, you might offer to help or suggest a quick break. This approach shows that you're not just task-focused, but people-focused as well.
Yes, and that's what makes workplace communication so effective when it's not just about the work, but about the people behind the work. Small talk humanizes the conversation. It's not just, let's talk about the project, but let's talk about how we're feeling as we work on this project.
Right. It helps to balance the human and the professional aspects of workplace conversations. By including small talk, you're creating a more supportive and collaborative environment where people feel more comfortable discussing challenges or seeking feedback.
And when people feel comfortable, they're more likely to share honest feedback or ideas. Small talk can create that sense of safety where team members feel like they're working with colleagues who care about them, not just their work output.
It's amazing how a simple conversation about weekend plans or lunch breaks can lead to a more productive and positive working relationship. Small talk really does help to build the foundation for more serious, work-related discussions.
Exactly. That's why I think small talk should never be underestimated. It's not just about filling the gaps in conversation. It's about creating a supportive and collaborative atmosphere in the workplace.
When you're talking about work projects, it's helpful to weave in some personal insights or experiences. For example, if a colleague is struggling with a specific task, you can share a story about how you faced a similar challenge. Thomas, have you found that sharing your own experiences helps in these conversations?
Definitely. I think it helps build trust when you're able to say, I've been there too. It's not just about offering advice, but showing that you understand what they're going through. For instance, I remember a time when I was under a tight deadline and I wasn't sure how to prioritize tasks. Sharing that experience with a colleague who was feeling overwhelmed helped them realize that it's okay to struggle sometimes and that there are ways to get through it.
That's a great point. By being open about your own experiences, you're not only helping others, but also building rapport. People appreciate it when you show that you're not perfect either. It creates a more authentic conversation. And when you can say, here's what worked for me, it feels more personal and relatable than just giving general advice.
Exactly. It also makes the workplace feel more supportive. Instead of approaching tasks in a purely transactional way where you're just focused on getting things done, you're creating an environment where people feel comfortable discussing their struggles. This can lead to better collaboration because team members feel like they can lean on each other.
And those personal insights don't have to be about work alone. Sometimes small talk about your weekend or what you did in your free time can give you a better understanding of your colleagues' lives outside of work. That knowledge can be helpful when working together on projects because it allows you to be more empathetic.
Yes, and it helps remind everyone that we're all human. We all have lives outside of the office, and recognizing that can make work relationships much stronger. For instance, if a colleague has a busy home life or other commitments, you might be more understanding when they need flexibility on deadlines or workloads.
Exactly. By sharing small personal insights, you're creating a workplace culture where it's okay to be open and real. That, in turn, leads to better communication and teamwork because people feel understood on a deeper level.
And that's what small talk is all about, connecting with others on both a personal and professional level. It may seem trivial at first, but over time, those little conversations can build strong working relationships that are essential for a productive and positive workplace.
So true. It's like planting seeds in your relationships with colleagues. Over time, those seeds grow into trust and collaboration, making work not only more enjoyable but also more effective.
Let's switch gears a bit and talk about something that can feel a little more intimidating: making small talk with senior staff. I know this can be a bit nerve-wracking, especially when you're new to a workplace. What's your take on it, Jennifer?
It can definitely feel daunting, especially if you're still finding your footing in the company. I've learned that senior staff appreciate small talk just as much as anyone else. In fact, it's a great way to build rapport and make a good impression. The key is to be respectful and confident, and to find common ground. For example, you might ask them about a recent company event or a project they're leading. It shows that you're engaged and interested without coming across as too casual.
I agree. It's about striking that balance between being approachable and professional. I've found that small talk with senior staff can actually help you stand out in a positive way. If you can engage them in a meaningful but light conversation, it helps them see you as someone who's not just focused on work, but also on building relationships within the company.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a lengthy conversation. Even a brief exchange in the hallway or before a meeting can make a big difference. You could start with something simple, like commenting on a recent company milestone, or even something as lighthearted as the office coffee. It shows that you're paying attention to what's happening around you and are comfortable engaging with people at all levels.
That's a good point. Small talk with senior staff can also provide you with valuable insights into the company culture and leadership style. When you have these conversations, you're not just networking, you're learning about how the organization functions and what matters to the people at the top.
Absolutely. And another thing to remember is that senior staff were once in your shoes. They understand what it's like to be in the early stages of your career, so they often appreciate when younger staff members make an effort to connect. As long as you're respectful and genuine, they're likely to respond positively.
That's right, and it's important not to overthink it. At the end of the day, senior staff are people too, and they enjoy a good conversation just like anyone else. It's all about showing interest in what they have to say and contributing thoughtfully to the conversation.
Exactly. And if you're ever unsure, a great approach is to ask for their opinion or advice on a topic related to your work. Not only does this show that you respect their expertise, but it also opens the door for a more in-depth conversation that could benefit your career in the long run.
That's a brilliant strategy. Asking for advice can be a great way to build a relationship with senior staff. It shows that you value their experience and are eager to learn, which can help you build a stronger connection with them over time.
And over time, those small moments of connection can lead to more meaningful relationships, which can be valuable both personally and professionally. So don't be afraid to strike up a conversation with senior staff. It can be a great way to grow within the company. Now, another important aspect of small talk at work is maintaining professional boundaries. While it's great to build relationships, it's equally important to keep things appropriate. For example, conversations about your weekend are fine, but you want to avoid anything too personal or controversial. What's your take on finding that balance, Thomas?
That's such a crucial point, Jennifer. At work, you want to connect with people but not cross any lines that could make things uncomfortable. It's about understanding that while you're building relationships, you're still in a professional setting. I think it's helpful to steer clear of sensitive topics like politics or religion and instead focus on neutral subjects.
Absolutely. There's a fine line between being friendly and being overly familiar, especially in a professional environment. You don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable or put them in a position where they feel like they have to share personal information. A good rule of thumb is to follow the other person's lead. If they're keeping things light and professional.
Exactly. Another thing I've found helpful is to keep the tone of the conversation positive. Small talk is a great opportunity to build relationships, but it can quickly go downhill if it becomes a space to vent or complain. Even if you're frustrated with something at work, it's best to avoid using small talk to express those frustrations. Instead, focus on more uplifting topics that can help foster a positive atmosphere.
That's a great point, Thomas. Negativity, especially in small talk, can create a toxic environment and can even affect how people perceive you. On the flip side, showing enthusiasm and a positive attitude, even in casual conversations, can leave a lasting impression. For example, instead of complaining about a challenging project, you could frame it in a positive way by saying something like, "It's been a tough week, but I'm learning a lot from this project."
I couldn't agree more. How you present yourself in these casual conversations says a lot about your professional demeanor. People are drawn to those who maintain a positive, solution-oriented mindset even during tough times. And remember, small talk can also be a way for your colleagues to gauge your attitude and approach to work, so staying positive can only work in your favor.
Yes, and the beauty of small talk is that it's a chance to subtly build your reputation. You might not think that these little conversations have much impact, but they actually do. Over time, people will remember you as someone who is approachable, positive, and easy to work with. That can go a long way in strengthening your professional relationships.
Exactly. And I think it's also important to listen more than you speak. Sometimes in small talk, people get caught up in trying to fill the space with their own stories or opinions. But I've found that showing genuine interest in what the other person has to say can make a much bigger impact. Asking questions, listening actively, and responding thoughtfully will always make the conversation more meaningful.
So true. Active listening is a powerful tool in any conversation, but it's especially important in small talk. It shows that you're engaged and that you care about what the other person has to say. And the more you practice it, the better you get at reading between the lines and understanding what your colleagues might need, even if they don't say it outright.
Yes, and it's also a skill that helps you adapt to different personalities. Some people are more talkative, while others might be more reserved. By listening carefully, you can adjust your own style of small talk to match the person you're speaking with, which makes the conversation flow more naturally.
Now, let's shift gears and talk about how small talk fits into team meetings. It might not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about meetings, but those few minutes before or after can be great for building rapport. Thomas, how do you approach small talk in these more formal settings?
That's an interesting question, Jennifer. I think meetings are actually an underrated space for small talk, especially when it's not a high-pressure environment. Before the meeting officially starts, you might have a few moments to chat with colleagues. It could be something as simple as asking how their day is going or commenting on something relevant to the meeting topic, like "I saw the report you worked on, great job."
I agree. Those few minutes can make a big difference, especially if the meeting involves people you don't work with regularly. It's a chance to get to know them a little better in a casual way, which can make the actual meeting run more smoothly. People tend to be more engaged and cooperative when they've had a positive interaction beforehand. Plus, it makes the workplace feel less rigid and more friendly.
Exactly. And another thing to consider is that small talk in meetings can actually help reduce tension. Sometimes meetings can be a bit intense, especially if there are big decisions to be made. A bit of light conversation before things get started can help ease any nerves or tension. It brings a human element into what might otherwise feel like a very formal, structured setting.
That's such a good point. By bringing in that human element, you're reminding everyone that, at the end of the day, we're all just people working toward the same goals. A quick, casual chat can make a big difference in how comfortable people feel during the meeting. And when people are more comfortable, they're more likely to contribute ideas and collaborate effectively.
Exactly. It's also a good way to build relationships with colleagues outside of your immediate team. Often in larger companies, you'll find yourself in meetings with people from different departments. Small talk in these settings can help you expand your network and get to know people you might not otherwise interact with on a regular basis.
That's a great point. Small talk in meetings doesn't have to be limited to just your close team members. It's a way to bridge gaps between different departments and create connections across the company. These casual conversations can lead to stronger cross-departmental collaborations down the line.
Yes, and even though it might seem like just a few minutes of light conversation, it can have a big impact on how the rest of the meeting plays out. When people feel comfortable with each other, they're more likely to speak up, share their ideas, and work together more effectively.
Exactly. And I think the key is to keep it brief and relevant. You don't want to derail the meeting with too much chatter, but a quick, positive interaction can go a long way in setting the tone for a productive and collaborative meeting. Now, Thomas, we've talked a lot about the importance of small talk in the workplace, but there's always the question of balance. How do you make sure small talk doesn't get in the way of productivity? After all, we're at work to get things done, right?
That's a really good point, Jennifer. Small talk is important for building relationships and fostering a positive work environment. But we also have to remember that there's a time and place for everything. The key is to keep small talk short and to the point during work hours. For example, if you're working on a deadline, it's probably not the best time to have a long conversation about weekend plans. Instead, you can have a quick check-in with your colleagues, something like, "How's your day going?" Or "What are you working on today?" and then get back to work.
Exactly. I think small talk should never be forced either. If it feels like it's dragging on or if it's taking time away from your tasks, it's probably time to wrap it up. A good strategy is to have a polite exit line ready. For example, after a brief conversation, you can say, "Well, I'd better get back to this project, but it was great catching up." That way, you maintain the friendly interaction without letting it interfere with your work responsibilities.
Yes, that's a good tip. It's all about finding that balance. You don't want to come across as uninterested in your colleagues, but at the same time, you have to prioritize your work. Keeping small talk light and brief during work hours is usually the best approach. You can always save longer conversations for breaks or after work.
And speaking of breaks, that's actually a great time to engage in more meaningful small talk. When you're on your lunch break or having coffee, you can afford to have longer conversations with your colleagues. That's when you can dive a little deeper into topics like hobbies, family, or weekend plans. Since you're not in work mode, you can be more relaxed and take the time to really connect with people.
Exactly. Break times are perfect for building stronger relationships because the pressure to be productive is off. Plus, when you have these longer conversations during breaks, it can actually improve your focus and productivity when you return to work. It's a nice way to recharge and feel more connected to your team.
Yes, and I've found that the more you engage in these small conversations during breaks, the easier it becomes to work with your colleagues during the rest of the day. You feel more in sync, and that makes collaboration smoother.
Definitely. It's like you're investing in the relationship during break times and then reaping the benefits during work hours. You're more comfortable communicating, you understand each other better, and you're more likely to support each other with tasks.
That's so true, Thomas. So, in the end, small talk, when done at the right time and in the right amount, can actually enhance productivity, not hinder it. It's about knowing when to engage and when to focus on the task at hand.
Exactly. Like with most things in life, it's all about balance. Small talk is a tool for building relationships and creating a positive work environment, but it has to be used wisely. If you can strike that balance, you'll not only have better relationships with your colleagues, but also be more productive at work.
So, in the end, small talk isn't just about chatting for the sake of it. It's about building relationships, creating a more positive work environment, and ultimately improving collaboration and productivity.
Exactly. Jennifer, whether you're in the office or working remotely, small talk plays a crucial role in connecting with your colleagues. It helps you feel more in sync with your team and can make work feel less stressful.
We hope today's episode gave you some useful tips on how to approach small talk at the workplace. Remember, it's all about balance and finding the right moments to connect with your colleagues.
Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time for more conversations to help you improve your English speaking skills.
Bye for now, and don't forget to keep practicing.
See you next time.